West Wing Week, your guide to everything that's happening at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. This week, the President hosted governors from across the nation for dinner and discussion, announced plans to close the detention facility at Guantanamo Bay, hosted the King of Jordan, paid tribute to Ray Charles, and held a panel discussion on one of the most exciting frontiers in science. That's February 19th to February 25th, or let's go ahead and get this thing done. On Friday, the President and First Lady traveled to the Supreme Court to pay their respects to the late Justice Antonin Scalia. Later, the President and Vice President sat down with Democratic governors from across the country. On Sunday, the President and First Lady hosted the annual National Governors Association dinner and reception. On Monday, the President met again with governors from across the country. The President does this every year, but this year was a little bit different. The hour-long question and answer session was in public and gave Americans the opportunity to see how leaders across the country can have a high-minded discussion focused on solutions and common values. Meanwhile, in the Indian Treaty Room, a solemn commemoration took place to honor the 1794 Treaty of Canandaigua, which after the American Revolutionary War established peace and friendship between the Grand Council of the Six Nations of the Iroquois and President George Washington. On Tuesday, the President took to the podium to announce plans developed by the U.S. military to close the detention facility at Guantanamo Bay, emphasizing the need to ensure our national security, take away a symbol used by terrorist recruiters, while cutting wasteful government spending.
For many years, it's been clear that the detention facility at Guantanamo Bay does not advance our national security.
On Wednesday, the President hosted His Majesty King Abdullah II of Jordan in the Oval Office. The President also answered a reporter's question about how he intends to fulfill his constitutional duty to fill the vacancy on the Supreme Court. After the President does his job, the Senate should do theirs. That afternoon, the President signed two bills: the Judicial Redress Act, which will better protect the privacy of American citizens, and the Trade Facilitation and Trade Enforcement Act of 2015, which will ramp up enforcement of our trade laws to protect American workers. In the evening, the President and First Lady hosted the latest in-performance at the White House, this time celebrating the iconic singer, songwriter, composer, and musician, Ray Charles. This is the 16th in-performance program during this administration, and you can catch snippets of previous performances at whitehouse.gov/performances. Thursday, the President marked the one-year anniversary of his Precision Medicine Initiative. That afternoon, the President headed to the State Department to meet with his National Security Council as part of his regular effort to review and intensify the campaign to degrade and ultimately destroy ISIL. So stay engaged with us online, and remember, you can find out more information about any of these topics and see complete videos of these events at whitehouse.gov. Thanks again for checking out this edition of your West Wing Week.